Welcome to Alex and Ashland's AP Government Review over political socialization and public opinion. Today we're going to teach you some vocab words. So Ashland, you're going to start.
Ooh, gender gap. How fun. The gender gap is when a disproportionate amount of men and women vote for the same candidate. So more men will vote for a candidate than women, or vice versa.
Perfect. Agenda setting. Agenda setting is when the media chooses which public policy issues to present to people and kind of forms a bias on the issue.
An opinion poll.
Opinion poll.
An opinion poll is when the government chooses a bunch of random people who are supposed to be representative of the entire population, and then they ask them a set of questions to try to gauge the public's opinion on a certain topic or their voting tendencies or something of that nature.
Divided opinion. A divided opinion is when there isn't any consensus on an issue. There's two different sides. It's a very controversial issue, and oftentimes there's no easy solution.
Good. Consensus. Now, consensus is pretty much the opposite of a divided opinion. It is when all of the public agrees on one side of an issue. They all have the same opinion about it.
The generational effect. The generational effect is when something happens politically that causes a whole generation to change their voting patterns. And the best example of this is Watergate, which caused people to have a general distrust in the government and caused a whole new block of conservatives to be created.
Public opinion. Okay, public opinion is the attitudes or beliefs shared by a group or a section of the population and what their opinion is on something.
The lifestyle effect. The lifestyle effect occurs as people age. When people are younger, they tend to be more liberal, and as they get older, they become more conservative, and this has been recorded throughout generations.
An opinion leader. An opinion leader is a usually charismatic person or someone of high standing or high rank or leadership that can sway opinion pretty much just through their personality. The best example of this would be a little-known German politician by the name of Adolf Hitler.
Yes. The Fairness Doctrine. The Fairness Doctrine was an old rule by the FCC that dictated that each issue be presented fairly with the same amount of time and with no clear bias. Now that was repealed back in 1987, I want to say. The point is it's not around anymore, so news networks can be as biased as they want to be on an issue.
Political trust. Political trust is pretty much what it sounds like. It is the extent to which the public trusts the institutions of the government. Normally, the military is the most trusted, while Congress is the least trusted of these.
Their approval ratings are below 10%. Political socialization. Political socialization is all about how people learn their political views, and that's typically through their family and through their education in some way or another. And it's also about the culture that they're from. Oftentimes people of different cultures are going to have different beliefs and have voting patterns that reflect that. It's Alex and Ashland's advice column on AP Government. When you're taking the AP Government test, when you're studying for it, the biggest thing to remember is that you need to read the chapter and you need to be doing the vocab. Now, as long as you're doing the vocab, you should be good.
Read the chapter for Mr. Biles' test for sure. But the actual exam turns out mostly is just a giant vocab thing. So know all of the vocab for every chapter, because if you know that, you're pretty much set for the exam, mostly.
I recommend making a Quizlet for each chapter. They're easy to study, and you can go back to them and look at them again anytime. And now, the biggest part of the AP exam's questions deal with the Constitution and the division of powers, so it's really, really important that you know kind of specific parts of the Constitution. You don't need to have it memorized by heart. You don't need to know every word, but you should know which sections deal with the president, which sections deal with Congress, which sections deal with the judicial branch.
And no checks and balances of all of those, because that is also a big section. Another thing you should know from the Constitution is obviously the amendments, because those gave a lot of rights to a lot of people. It's history, but it's the only history you really need to know. The amendments, and then no checks and balances, separation of powers for the Constitution, and then vocab. Vocab is the only thing.
And it would be a good idea to have a court case in mind for most of the amendments, especially the more important ones. The 14th Amendment, for example, is very important. You should know a couple of different court cases related to that, to equal rights. You should also know a couple of court cases related to free speech. There's a ton of those. Things like the 4th Amendment, obviously the 2nd Amendment. Be familiar with the big amendments and know court cases for each. Remember,
the most important rule is to have fun and be yourself. No, go take the exam. Good luck. It's horrible.